Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunatu, saha viryam karavavai, tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, welcome to everyone. And we're here in Watkins Bookstore on a rainy Friday evening. And I've done quite a few books with Watkins, so I thought I'd hold them all up for you. The first one I did was chakra meditation, right? And then I did one called The Power of Breath, which I realize is actually a prequel. If you want to work with chakras, it's good to start with the breath. And then I did Cleansing Power of Yoga, right? If you want to work with the breath, you need to do a bit of cleansing. And mudras for modern life. And the book we're talking about today is called Sitting Comfortably. So my name is Swami Saradananda, and I've been teaching yoga and meditation since 1975, which is quite a long time. And usually when I say that, like, people thinking, was I even born then? But anyway, so I teach yoga, I teach meditation, and I've noticed that from watching people meditate, I think the one reason people who think they want to meditate, but they don't actually do it, and it's because it's uncomfortable. So I teach a course called Teach Meditation. It's for yoga teachers who want to teach meditation. And from what I've observed and my students have noticed with their students, I put together this book, which I wanted to call Prepare to Meditate, but Watkins didn't like that title. So instead we called it Sitting Comfortably, Preparing the Mind and Body for Peaceful Meditation. And the title, Sitting Comfortably, it actually comes from one of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Stiram Sukham Asanam. When you sit for meditation, your posture should be steady and it should be comfortable. But the problem is for most people, when they try to sit for meditation, it's not comfortable. It's not physically comfortable. I would say that's the number one reason that people who think they want to meditate don't actually do it. And the second reason, I would say, is because it's not mentally comfortable. You know, you sit down and your mind starts racing. So that's the purpose of this book, is to sort of, not to teach you how to meditate, because I know a lot of people are already meditating or they want to meditate. So it doesn't give any techniques for meditation, but it just enables you to be able to sit comfortably. See, mentally, physically. Okay. I think when you sit for meditation, it's good to sit cross-legged. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, because yoga's from India and they sit cross-legged in India. But actually, when you sit cross-legged, it's like containing the energy. So if at all possible, I always advise people to try and sit cross-legged. If you can't sit cross-legged, or maybe you don't want to sit on the ground, okay, you can sit on a chair. But even when you sit on a chair, it's very important to have the back straight, because we say energy travels up the spine. And in order to have the back straight, you have to have the hips slightly higher than the knees, just slightly. And you can do this as an experiment. If you raise your knees, you'll notice as you raise them, your lower back rounds. So if you want to have your back straight, you need to have the hips slightly higher than the knees. Now, I know a lot of times in class when I say that, people have their knees sort of way up in the air and they look at me like, no way, they're not going down, right? So if the knees don't go down, the alternative is to raise the hips up. You see, so you can sit on a cushion or a yoga block or 2 or 3, 4 yoga blocks. You can stack them up, but just to bring the body into a comfortable position. And also to make sure that the knees are supported so that you don't have to use tension to hold the body in that position. See, then people complain their back hurts, their knees hurt. So it's good not only to have some props or cushions that will bring the body into a comfortable position, but it's also good to do some stretches that will help you to make your body more relaxed and able to straighten the body. So I thought this evening we could do just a couple of very, very simple stretches if people want to. Okay? And the first thing is just take one hand, okay? So take your right hand and bring it behind your back, just at your waist level. So your forearm is at your waist. And then you're going to bring your ear down to your shoulder, your armpit. Okay, and come up. And then the other ear. So it's the ear, not the chin. Okay, and come up and change arms. Okay, this releases, okay, again, bring the ear down. This releases the muscles that pull your shoulder blades up. And come up, and the other side. See, so the ear goes not just down to the shoulder, but it comes down to the armpit. So it's slightly forward and pulling down. Okay, and come up. You see, many people, even people who do yoga regularly, you might do yoga for a half hour, an hour a day, and then you go to work, and you sit like this for 6, 8, maybe 10 hours a day. So people are becoming more and more round-shouldered. And this is a big problem. Okay, so doing some of these simple stretches will help to keep the shoulders straight, and then also you can breathe properly. Okay, now just bring your and bend your elbows and bring one elbow on top of the other. Okay, so keeping the elbows together, lift them up. Up as high as you can, and down, and up, and down, up, and down, and keep the elbows together, but release the hands and bring them together. Fingers pointing up to the ceiling, and then raise the arms up. And down, and up, and down, up, and down, and release. Just shake out your shoulders, and now change arms. So you now have the other elbow underneath. You see, so you're hugging yourself. And lift the elbows up. Down. Up. Down. Up. And down. And now keep the elbows together and bring the hands together. Fingers up to the ceiling and arms up. Down. Up. And down. Up. And down. Okay, now shake out your shoulders. Shake out your arms. Okay, I always tell people to imagine they're not really connected to your body. maybe a bit of skin. Okay, so you can do different stretches to help to bring the physical body into a position where it's comfortable to sit for meditation. But then, of course, people have other excuses. For instance, they say, oh, I don't have time. But I think if you're willing to put in a little bit of time to meditate every day, you'll find that your mind becomes so much clearer. You become more efficient and you sleep better. See, nowadays, most people are stressed out. And when you're stressed out during the day, you don't suddenly lie down on your bed and stress goes away. Right? You lie down, you try to fall asleep, you toss, you turn, maybe you dream a bit. Dreaming takes energy. And that's why people need so much sleep, is they think they're sleeping, but actually they're tossing and turning. If you put in like even maybe 15, 20 minutes in the evening before you go to bed. See, people always think they have to meditate in the morning, but I think it's also good to meditate in the evening, because if you're out, just walking down the street, you pick up sometimes strange energy. Here in London, on the street, there's some strange energy there, sometimes. So you pick that up, and you, without realizing it, you hold on to it. You see, if you sit for meditation before you go to sleep in the evening, it's like you wash your mind out. You get rid of that negative energy, you become very peaceful, and then you fall into a very restful sleep, because it's only deep sleep that's restful. It's not dreaming. Dreaming takes energy. See, so if you fall into a very restful sleep, you'll actually find that you need less sleep. And I'm not saying keep setting your alarm earlier, but even if you didn't set your alarm, you'd find that you were waking up earlier and you were feeling better. You're feeling more refreshed. See? So imagine you sit for, say, 20 minutes a day for meditation, and then because of that, you need an hour less sleep. See, if you're a business person, it's a very good investment, 3 for 1. Okay. So when people say they don't have time to meditate, I always say, well, it's a bit of a misnomer. Because not only do you sleep better and feel better, but you become more efficient. Then, of course, there's procrastination, right? Starting to do it. So I ask people to just decide they're going to do it. Think of when you're going to practice and decide how long you're going to practice. And at the beginning of every week, you write it down. Right? So there's always a question, when is the best time to meditate? And for most people, it's either first thing in the morning, when your mind is in a very fresh state, or last thing in the evening, as we were just speaking about. See, if you do it in the morning, then you know you've done it for the day, and you've sort of set up a peaceful attitude for the day. But if you do it in the evening, then you sleep better. So there's good for both times. Okay, so decide when it is that you could probably do it, and then decide for how long. Now, I know sometimes people say, oh, I meditate for 5 or 10 minutes a day. But I think it actually takes about 10 minutes for your body to settle down. So if you're only meditating 5 or 10 minutes, you're not really meditating. You're sitting quietly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sitting quietly, but it's not really meditating. So if you really want to develop a meditation practice, make a determination. I'm going to sit for 20 minutes every day. I used to say half an hour, but everyone made faces at me. right? And even when I say 20 minutes, they still make faces. But I don't go under 20 minutes. I think that's really the minimum that you should try and practice, at least 20 minutes a day. And set an alarm. You see, nowadays you can get very nice alarms on your phone. You can get Tibetan singing bowls and people chanting Om or wind chimes. So it's not those jarring alarms like we used to have. See, if you don't set an alarm, what's going to happen is you're going to be sitting there thinking, did I sit long enough? No, maybe I should sit a little longer. No, I should get up. I have these things. No, maybe I'll just sit a few. You see, so then you have this dialogue going on in your mind. So you're not really meditating. See, if you just set the alarm and you sit until the alarm goes off and you focus the mind. Now, when I teach meditation, I always suggest to beginners that they start with the breath, because everyone's got one. It's very simple, right? So I think it's a good place to start if you don't have a meditation practice. I think once you've been meditating for a while, you actually want to let go of the breath, because the breath is in the physical body. Okay, then it's good to start with maybe a mantra, or some sound, or a visualization. See? So my book actually doesn't teach techniques of meditation, because it's actually meant for people of all traditions. Just how can you sit more comfortably, and how can you actually get into the meditation, whatever it is you want to practice. Okay. See, the nature of your mind, not everyone's mind, is to be very restless. See, people don't realize it, but the average person, the mind jumps about 1,000 times a second. And I really mean a second, not an hour. Right? Now, you probably think you're seeing and hearing me at the same time. But you're not. Multitasking is an illusion. The mind only does one thing at a time. But it goes back and forth so fast. You know, seeing, hearing. Imagine 1,000 times a second. That's faster than we can think. Right? So you appear to be doing two things at a time. See? So the mind is very restless. And when you sit for meditation, and you try to focus, you start to slow the mind down slightly and focus it on a point. It's like running water through a garden hose, you know, and you make the end smaller and smaller, so it becomes stronger and stronger. Right? So this, you can say, is meditation. It's not relaxation. Okay? So you want, instead of letting your mind be restless, you start focusing it on a point. Okay? And then the mind starts to become very powerful. Now, a lot of people complain when they sit for meditation, their mind is all over the place. And one of the things I often ask people is, how many cups of coffee do you drink in a day? Or tea? Because tea actually has as much caffeine as coffee. See, and the average person probably drinks 5, 6, 8 cups a day. Right? You see, so all that caffeine is making your mind jumping. So maybe if you really want to develop a meditation practice, you can also start cutting down on foods that make your mind jumpy. And I have a whole section in the book discussing how different foods affect your mind. I think people never think about that. How does food affect your mind? Right? So it's not how does food make you healthier, but it's how it makes your mind more peaceful. And then, of course, if you want the mind to be peaceful, also in yoga tradition, we have different breathing exercises. You know, the mind and the breath are very closely connected. When the mind is jumpy, your breath will be very jumpy. Everyone knows that. I mean, if I were breathing like, you'd come in here and say, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I mean, even a 2-year-old child would say that. See, so we all know that the mind and breath are connected. So if you want to meditate and you want to make the mind peaceful, instead of using the mind to control the breath, we start to use the breath to control the mind. Right? And you can do different breathing exercises that will help to make the mind peaceful. Okay, very simple breathing exercises. Okay. Even just starting, okay, we can do an experiment now. Okay, just take your hand and hold it under one nostril and just breathe out. And hold it under the other nostril, breathe out. So you probably notice one side is stronger than the other. That's going to change every hour and a half to 2 hours. Now, if you don't believe me, it's very easy to check. Right? All you do is maybe one day, every hour or so, you go and you write it down. And you start to see your own biorhythm. And you'll notice that it's changing, unless you have a cold, of course. But if you're healthy, it's every hour and a half to 2 hours. Okay, when you're meditating, the breath, we say, comes more evenly through the 2 nostrils. And this is why yogis do alternate nostril breathing. You know, we inhale one side and out the other. And inhale and out the other. And we always make the exhalation twice as long as the inhalation. Okay, because it's actually more difficult to exhale fully than to inhale fully. Okay, so all these things affect the meditation. Okay, your diet, your flexibility, your breath, and I have chapters on all of them in the book. So this is another advert for the book. You know, many people, when they start to meditate, and they have this fantasy, as soon as I sit down to meditate, and suddenly I'm going to be totally blissful. And then the opposite happens, and they're shocked. Like, many people find that a lot of negative emotions start coming up. I think this is because, you know, we all want to be nice people. But we all have anger, greed, maybe a bit of hatred, jealousy, fear. So if we feel these emotions, we push them down, we control them. And we don't look at them. Right? I mean, when do you ever sit and look at your own mind? See, most people never. You know, even if you say, I'm going to spend a quiet evening at home, just being peaceful, you're still giving your mind some entertainment. Probably you're maybe watching television, reading a book, listening to music. Okay, now, not to say there's anything wrong with these things, but you're giving your mind some kind of entertainment. And then when you sit for meditation, no entertainment. And you actually, maybe for the first time, or the first time in a long time, you start to see what's in your own mind. And you start to see these negative emotions and thoughts that are there. And maybe because you have nothing else to think about, they seem to be coming up and getting stronger. See? So I think if this happens, Don't be attached to those emotions. I know it's difficult. Like we say, I am angry. I mean, if you think about it, what I'm saying is that's who I am. I'm angry. See, I'm identifying with the anger. See, but if I was speaking Sanskrit, which I don't, but I would say, I go into the anger. See, they say every language is a worldview. So if we think of anger not as that's who I am, or any other emotion, that's not who I am, but it's something that I can either choose to go into or not go into. You see, so then when these negative emotions come up, right, if you really want to develop a meditation practice, don't get caught up in them. Just watch them. See, and if you just watch them, often people visualize them like a bubble or a balloon or a cloud. You know, they just float away. See, and then you feel maybe purified a bit. You know, these negative emotions are gone. Or some people have the impression that it's like a bubble that gets bigger and bigger and then it pops. See, so the idea is whenever any negative thought or negative emotion comes up in meditation, okay, be aware that there's a good chance they will. But don't identify with them. Just watch them. And watching is also quite interesting because you can learn a lot about the nature of your own mind. See, so watch them but don't identify with them, and then let them go. Okay, so people do have different experiences in meditation. Right? Some people will have emotional experiences. Some people will see lights. You know, people report seeing like a blue light here. Some people hear music, wind chimes or flute music early in the morning. Most people have no experiences. So don't think that the person who's having the experience is a better meditator. Often it's just those impurities coming up, but the mind interprets them in different ways. So whatever experience comes up, whether it's a positive or a negative experience, just let it go. Don't identify with it. So now, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So when you start meditating, what's the best way to start? What's the easiest way to start?
So when you start meditating, what's the easiest way to do?
What's the best way to start?
Yeah. So I think the easiest is just to watch your breath. Okay. First, come into a comfortable position, but make sure your body is nice and straight. And then take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and then let go of your breath. So you're not controlling it any longer. Okay, but you're just watching it. Some people like to see it as a light, coming in through the nostrils and down, filling the lungs. And then you'll notice there's like a little pause, and then it turns around and it becomes an out breath coming up. So I think that's probably the easiest and a good way to start.
And do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then if you have any kind of, maybe your knees hurt or something, you actually can feel as though you're breathing into them and you're releasing that tension. Right? But mainly just to watch the breath. It's very good for beginners.
I think the best way of getting into it is trying to relax the whole body.
So, I'm sorry, when you first get into it, I'm trying to relax the whole body?
The best way of getting into it is trying to relax the whole body.
Yeah, you don't actually relax the body. You see, I think this is a big confusion because people confuse meditation with relaxation. See, I never let people lie down to meditate. I think you have to sit up.
Yes,
But you want the body to be straight but relaxed.
relaxed.
Yeah. So if it hurts, you're not going to relax. So you have to make yourself comfortable so that you can relax. Yeah. So often, you need to put some cushions under the knees or, under the feet. Yeah, so the body should be straight but relaxed and comfortable. So I agree with you. Yeah.
What do you do when you start meditating and almost straight away you start feeling sleepy?
Yeah, so the question was, what do you do when you try to meditate and right away you start feeling sleepy? So I think your mind is not your mind, everyone's mind is very tricky. And your mind doesn't like to be watched. So it's going to play different games, so that you stop what you're doing. So I would say just make a determination. I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, no matter what. And then you find if you do that for a few days, after a while the mind will have to think of some other game to play. Right? So then you don't feel sleepy. Because usually when you feel sleepy, when you're trying to meditate, as soon as you get up, you're not sleepy anymore. You see, so it's just the mind playing tricks. But if you have that problem on a regular basis, maybe before you sit to meditate, wash your hands and face. Just splash some cold water on your face before you sit for meditation. Or some people like to do a little bit of yoga before they sit for meditation. Or some people do some breathing exercises. You see, if you can get enough oxygen into the body, you won't be sleepy. Okay? I think also one problem people have, why they feel sleepy, is that they tend not to sit straight. See, people sort of hunch over, and then you're not allowing the ribs to expand fully. So I think it is important to sit up really straight. Right? And maybe in the beginning, you check yourself every once in a while, and make sure that you're sitting properly. Yes?
When you're sitting cross-legged and doing meditation, what do you do with your hands? You just keep them on your lap, or do you put them on your knees?
Yeah. So the question is, when you sit for meditation, say you're sitting cross-legged, what do you do with your hands? Do you have them in your lap or what? Okay. So I have a whole book about that. The mudras are hand gestures. So when you sit for meditation, there are different gestures that you use, different positions you have your hands. Now in yoga, the most common one is where you join the index finger and the thumb, and then you rest the back of the hands on the knees or the thighs. We call this chin mudra. So we say when the palms are upward, you're receiving energy. But sometimes you want to ground yourself, right? So then you can have the hands facing downward also. So for yoga practitioners, that's the most common thing. However, if you go to a Buddhist meditation group, they tell you to bring the hands together. Okay, so you bring one hand on top of the other. Some sanghas say you have the right hand on top. Some sanghas say the left hand on top. Some sanghas say men put the right, women put the left. So they're all different theories. So I think to find one position where it's comfortable for you. It can kind of either be on the knees or the thighs, or it can be together. Now, one problem with if you bring the hands together, as I mentioned, people are becoming more and more round-shouldered because they spend so much time on the computer. So if you bring the hands together, there's a tendency to fall forward a bit. So what you can do if you like to keep the hands together is just take a small cushion and put it in your lap. And then if you rest the hands on the cushion, it sort of pushes the shoulders back. And then you don't have that problem. So you can maybe in your meditation experiment with the different mudras and see which one you find is most comfortable for you.
Sometimes I go to the Buddhist centre in Bethnal Green.
I'm sorry?
The Buddhist centre in Bethnal Green, and they do the Buddhist stands up there and takes them through meditation. And I told you to relax. So completely relax. And then that I know them when they've done the Om. The Om Buddhist.
Yeah, the Buddhists do, like any Buddhist center will probably have a meditation group.
Yeah.
And
I find that really, when I do get to go there, I find that, listen, everything's gone when you come out. If you're worried about anything, it's all gone. And it's beautiful.
mm-hmm.
And it takes you through about 15 minutes. Then he asks everybody how they're feeling. And they tell them. Then it takes you back into the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And within that hour, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think if you're a beginner, it's a good idea to meditate with a group.
Yeah, it's more powerful, I think, with a group. I find it more powerful.
Yeah, because you build up a kind of group energy. And I think that energy that's built up, it's more than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a beginner, at least once a week, try to go to some group meditation.
Yeah. I find it more powerful, yeah. I find it harder to do on my own.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more difficult for everyone to practice on their own.